Yeah.
So I had a download that I needed to do a quantum experiment specifically with constellations. And so now because I've been experimenting quite a lot with my friends, because, when you see your friends struggling, the people like us who are trained, it's very hard to see, right? So we say, oh, let me try this, let me try this, because we're working with people who are actually also very like in tune with a lot of methods themselves. And so I have actually done quite a lot of experiments with manifestation using constellations work. But because how I work is very much a combination of all my little trainings and all my let's say my suffering in relationships, panic attacks, and all of that stuff, there's a whole journey that people have seen, like Indrani, Gabriella, Anna Valesi. You've known me for years. If you've seen me grow and how I developed what I'm developing now. But to really start at the basis of constellations, I said to Ceylan, maybe it would be very powerful if I created like a PowerPoint about what I think we can do with constellations and how how I'm specifically working with constellations. And then Ceylan is just developed, she is studying now, and she is also she's going to be informed by her own experience. And we thought we could maybe share our own experience with constellations. And I think the most important thing is the phrase of Dr. Joe, which is change the field, change matter. And the thing is that we are part of the field, we are the field, but so are our ancestors, so are the houses, the companies, the clients we work with, the person you're dating, your company, everything has a field. So when you start studying constellations or you start getting involved in that work, you see that everything has a consciousness, everything. So let's say you buy a house and you think, oh, this is a bargain, but there was something going on with the house, like the person couldn't pay the mortgage, and they had to sell the house to the bank, or the bank took it back. That has a consciousness of its own. When you buy that will affect, the new owner. So constellations show a lot of the way that the energetic world seeps into our consciousness, and it can be overwhelming. It can make you a little bit like, what is it, overcautious as well, because I actually now am so far that I would say I don't even want to buy an old house. I only want to buy new houses where nobody ever lived. That's my preference, and I always manifest being in those houses. Because I've just seen too many people buy houses and then them sort of repeating what was going on in the family that was living in the house. So I sort of like, oh my gosh, people have asked me, aren't you powerful enough to clear it? Well, I'm not even sure I want to clear anything, right? So I don't want to scare you guys of buying new old houses or whatever, but you guys get the gist of it. But I would like to wait until Ceylan is here to start the presentation. I do know that a lot of you have done a lot of constellations with me, but I know that Claudine just had a wonderful mini experience with George there and with Julie there. And I know that Julie, you had to leave earlier, and you sent me a beautiful sharing about your experience of the money constellation. And without giving too much private information about yourself, how did you, what did you experience during specifically a money constellation where we get to talk to money? Can you share, Julie? Maybe she can't.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess when I started off the constellation, I felt this sort of I noticed that there were some blocks. I don't know. I mean, Claudine's. I mean, there was generally I felt some blocks, and it's true. The part that stuck the most with me was when I found it particularly powerful when you talked about how we had to be sort of make peace. Let me think about make peace with our parents and our family members and people in our past. And for me, that was really important because I think that we all have a bit of baggage regarding, like, we inherit a little bit our relationship with money from the people in our family. And in my case, certainly my parents were a big influence on me. And I think that sort of helping them overcome, sort of in some way, like mentally helping or being at peace with them in some way because of the relationship that they had with money, which perhaps wasn't the healthiest of relationships, and they were always very tense. And I think that was really important because in a way you kind of you sort of release those blockages in your own life because they're carried. You carry them with you without realizing it, and by lifting that, with family members, and I think that that also has an effect on you. And yeah, I felt really like a weight had lifted, like in some way. I'm sure that Claudine felt a little bit that there was something unblocked from her as well. And in my case, I felt that there was like an unblocking as well with my family. That by seeing them more at peace in their relationship with money, I felt more at peace, and I felt that they were like, yeah, as I told Angelique, sort of almost they were okay with me, like, spurring me on to say, okay, you can do it better. Like, okay, we're at peace, and you can do this even better. You can develop even better relationship with money. So yeah, that for me was very powerful because I didn't realize, although I had thought about sometimes, but I think in that money constellation, the effect or the inheritance of the relationship of family members came through with a lot of strength, and I felt that was quite liberating for all of us, for myself and for the people that I had in my family that felt that had this that had this blockage for this during their lifetime.
Beautiful, Julie. So I asked Claudine to do an objective assessment for me as basically what she experienced during the money constellation. So I'm happy to share that later in the group. But today, Ceylan and I want to share our personal experience because, when you do family constellations therapy, like some of you that have done it, like every constellation is a full-blown story, like a trilogy or something. So I would love to basically share why I studied constellations. And then I would love to hear from Ceylan why she studied, because it's not that we want to study. It's that we feel there's something there that other methods couldn't give us. So with my story, I have a presentation ready, but I just want to explain how I was driven to study constellations. So I was always very, very determined to be successful. And I always landed a great job. I always manifested the amazing, promotions and being headhunted and getting my salary, my dream houses. I was living in houses that were so beautiful that literally people would say, this could be a bit, this could frighten men off, like what I was owning as houses and the business trips I was making, etc. So many of you probably can resonate with that, being very successful, independent woman. And in relationships, I was always struggling. I was struggling. So what did I do? I embarked on healing journeys, healing trainings. And even though I specialized in this relationship school for 2 years in San Francisco and in New York, I still manifested at the end of in the beginning of my relationship, I thought, oh my God, I manifested the man of my life. And I was graduated from this amazing energy healing school that was focused on relationships. And lo and behold, within 6 months, 9 months, I started seeing the patterns of my mother and father and his mother and father in our relationship. And for the first time of my life, I realized that I understood my dad. And my dad is somebody that I hated. I love like judging him. I love seeing him as the bad guy because he was the player. He was always with other women. But in my family, in my own relationship with a soulmate partner who are so in love with each other, I started experiencing the problems that my mother had with my dad. And I saw myself becoming my father and he becoming my mother. And it was so weird. It was so bizarre that I thought, I need to go back to this one therapy that could explain why, despite all my knowledge, all my training, I'm still creating so much suffering. So the relationship ended in a very, very horrible way. It was very painful. And then I was in my family constellations training, and it was so hard. You cannot believe how hard it is when you're healing a broken heart and you want to heal this relationship. You want this man to come back, right? You want to heal it so that you are worthy to be loved again by this man. Of course, he never came back. But what I did get is understanding of how we're all entangled, all of us. None of us are exempt. And I could really see how I was just living out patterns of my ancestors, specifically my mother and father, and how they responded to their parents, and how I was living out the panic attacks of my grandmother, whose husband never came back from a business trip. So there were a lot of things that I saw very clearly that were not mine, that all my head knowledge couldn't help me with. So this is how I started Family Constellations. It was not the easiest study. Often, Celine can confirm this, you're in the energy of a system, and that could be about abuse, could be about war trauma, could be about people fleeing their countries, losing everything. And you have to be so strong to be a facilitator in that and to be clear enough to know what you need to do. But it was the only way that I could disentangle myself from creating such a painful dynamic, which was the legacy of both my parents. And so many years forward, I still see everything through the eyes of constellation. So as I said, if a friend buys a company or they hired in a new job and they tell me, oh my God, it's so horrible, blah, 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 the two people before me, blah, 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 I can never see anything separate from what has happened before. So everything for me is systemic. I view the world through a systemic lens, and the solutions to me are systemic. They're hardly ever about you as an individual. Yeah. So, and this is why I have a passion for combining the constellations work with, understanding the fifth dimension, fourth dimension, third dimension, theta healing, fast EFT, all the modalities that are out there. So I would love Ceylon to explain what brought you to Family Constellations, because you're super psychic, you're already manifested lots of fun stuff, and so it wasn't a soul pain that brought you to Family Constellations. It was maybe more curiosity, or but I'll let you speak.
Oh, my story is really interesting. It's kind of funny actually. So I had been in a constellation about 4 years ago when Angelique led one, and I really wasn't supposed to be there. I ended up being there, and I loved it. And I actually, during that constellation, it was not mine. I was just I became a representative. I don't know if you remember this, Angelique, it's been a long time, but sometimes, the representatives are chosen and sometimes they just appear, like you just start feeling all these emotions and you start talking, speaking them, and then suddenly you're representing automatically this one person. And so it was a constellation about, I don't want to say too much details, but about this person was adopted to a different country. And I used to, oh God, this is so hard to say, looking back, but I used to judge mothers who would give their babies for adoption. I would always say, well, there's always a way, and it's not loving, and this and that. And I used to judge that. And suddenly I automatically became the birth mother of this person. And I started feeling all these emotions of like, how much I love her and how unconditional it is and how difficult it is for me to do this, but I know that it's for her best that I'm making this decision. And it was like with so much love and so much trust in the process that it was going to be, like I was picking it all like in this perfect way. Suddenly my judgment of the situation completely disappeared. And on the contrary, I realized that it was like the biggest unconditional love, actually, instead of seeing it like, oh, I'm just going to get rid of my baby somehow, to I am doing this and it's giving me so much pain, but it's for her good, for her good. So it was like so much higher, like this love that she was feeling as a mother. And I completely changed that day, that 1 hour. And it was really beautiful, but I never did constellations again until I kept receiving, last summer, I kept receiving phone calls from several friends, both Turkish and foreign, within a week, I think like 5 or 6 people reached out to me. I think George was one of them, and George is here. And, saying that you really have to watch this Turkish Netflix series. You probably, I don't know if you guys know about it, it's called Another Self. And I was like, and I was on vacation in Turkey at the time. And I said, and I am originally from Turkey, if you don't know. And I said, okay, this is really crazy. And I had time, so I just turned Netflix on and I started watching it. And I became obsessed with the series. I finished it all, I don't know, like in 4 days, I think. And I never watched series ever. And then I rewatched to see what was happening, how the healing was happening. I started being interested in constellations. And then, you're all Dr. Joe students, so you know how this feels. I had this thing in my heart, and I was like, I have to study this. And I reached out to Angelique. I said, who did you study with? And I started researching and everything. And then it was just starting that September. So I watched this in August, and I couldn't wait for it to start in September. I'm actually still finishing up my training at this point. It's not done yet. But something about it was so deep and home at the same time to me that I felt like I already know this, I'm learning it and I'm practicing it, but it was very easy for me to just add that into what I already do. So natural. I don't know how, but it just was natural. And anyway, so I just want to go back a little bit. I did not want to study constellations, or I didn't want to look into any kind of family dynamic, even though, yes, I have manifested many things, including, again, the healing for my daughter with Dr. Joe's work and other things. But when you talk about family and family system and family dynamic and ancestry, that was very scary to me. And it was a place I didn't want to touch and go and see and know. And so when I decided to study this, I said, wow, this is just, I don't know if I'm ready, but I was, of course, because I wouldn't sign up otherwise. So there's a lot of patterns in my family that has been repeating generation over generation, both in my family, and also in my husband's family. So it's really interesting. My husband and I have been together for, at this point, not married, but in total together for 25 years. And we've been married for 17 of those years. And our family patterns are so similar, very similar. So on both sides, we were just having the same pattern where siblings argue, and, they're connected both by like business situations. So they're in court to separate this and that. It's always like many generations on both sides. And I said, well, this is heavy and I could maybe handle it, but we have 2 children. And for them to just get that, from both families, I just didn't want that, because they're very close and loving and towards each other. I don't want a stupid, like, it's not even about money. It's really about power. It's not about, that. So and my mom actually is right now still in court with her family to separate from, because my grandfather had started a company and everybody were equal partners. And things, there's a lot of things that happened. And my mom said, I don't want to continue being partners. So I want to take my share and leave. And it's been 9 years still going on. And it has ups and downs, of course. So I said, oh, okay, let's see. And during the training, of course, we do a lot of mini and big constellations. And her court process started getting like faster, and things started opening up. And she's a Dr. Joe student, so she does meditations and takes part in the healing. So she does her share, but things started to speed up really intensely this year. And suddenly one day, it was about maybe I was in the training for 4 months, and she said to me, all this is happening because you've been doing this training. I said, oh, really? Why do you say that? She said, I don't know, you're just cleaning up some stuff in the family line, I'm sure, because it's just speeding up, and it's almost at the end at this point. So that's one major thing. But the other thing is that I'm very, very close to my mother, but I also was very angry with her. And I always thought that she's very different than me, like, why does she have to be so like this and that? And, and I used to get angry easily. So I just, one day I said during a constellation, I said, I want to look at this. I want to know why I'm angry with her. Because it doesn't make sense, because we're very close to to each other. And then I realized a lot of things that, of course, that I was angry, about me, that I was not happy with, because, whatever I was angry with her, of course, I had those qualities, and I had to face them and heal them within me. And then honestly, since then, it's been months, like I haven't had that at all. And we have a very like balance and with boundaries. I guess we have boundaries now. Before, I don't think we did, and that was part of my anger. So we have a very healthy relationship now, and I don't get triggered, which is like really crazy to think. So I find it very powerful. I've been, using it both professionally at this point for many months, and also personally on a regular basis. And I agree with you, Angelique. It's really interesting, because I also started to see everything as a family, like as a system, not a family necessarily, but as a system. And sometimes my husband, comes home and he's like, oh, these two, and that happens a lot in a really weird way, like, oh, these two coworkers like are arguing, they're not talking to each other, like all these like funny stories. And he's the leader of the office, so he has to deal with everything. And he's like, oh God, it felt like a preschool again, and I had to make, have them make peace and all that. And all those things kind of like, I started seeing them from a systemic point of view, and I showed him several times. We played around, and he did see some systemic things and why this was happening, because between these two people, this went on for 4 months, that they would not even say hi to each other, they would not talk, and they had to, they're like working together. So it's really interesting that it takes literally a second to heal these like deep things that's been bothering people for so long. So realizing how quickly things can be fixed, and how big of a deal we make from things. And, I think it also helped with my empathy, that, everybody, in my opinion, does their best, in the lives, like in the way they behave. And a lot of them are programs. And when they're systemic or family programs, they're so easy to resolve in the constellation. I want to give an example. I was working just yesterday, actually, with a mom who reached out to me because her daughter has, I don't want to name things, but personality disorder. I don't want to say specifics. And she said, do you think can you help, her? I said, but she's not open to, she's very open to receiving alternative care, not medication. But she's not really open to sitting down and working with somebody. And I said, I don't want to work with her. I want to work with you. And she was surprised. Yeah. And she said, okay, that's easier. That's better for me. So we just, we created this, with the representatives, their system. And there was so much that needed attention. And we realized that sometimes when somebody in the system is forgotten, ignored or not talked about, or just, it can manifest as some type of psychiatric issue on a descendant, like on one of the family members. They own it. And then it becomes like, oh, this person has this diagnosis. But once we found out what was happening in there, things really unfolded. And she, of course, this just was yesterday. And with Constellations, it takes sometimes months to unfold. But she left the place, she left our session knowing that, realizing some things that what needs to be worked on in the family. And she was really at peace with the situation. And she had hope instead of feeling, oh gosh, she has this diagnosis, which is for life. What do I do? How can I help her? So it's very empowering in that sense as well.
So, and I wouldn't be surprised if, because of the work that we're doing with other modalities, meditation, EFT or theta healing or whatever it is, access bars, releasing, all of these things contribute to the system. But it feels like sometimes you need to pinpoint what actually is the cause on a spiritual level, on a consciousness level, rather than think it's you. And it's also, we have to be very careful about thinking that we are there to resolve it, because I think what we can do is what Family Constellations is about, is to allow the order of love to flow again. So when we look at Family Constellations, what we detect in our own lives is there's stuckness, there's no flow. There's disease, there's resentment, somebody is always perpetually in bad relationships, or single, or somebody is very sick, or somebody is a black sheep, they keep stealing, or all of these things. When we think it's that person, people who have studied this, they will literally never look at that one person. We will look at the historical facts. So what I want to do is I want to take us through our presentation, because I think that will help us get a bigger, larger picture. So the premise that I wanted to work with is really coming from me, actually studying with Dr. Joe, because before Dr. Joe said change the field, change matter, I didn't realize what I was doing with Family Constellations. We were talking about the 0 point field. We were talking about what is it called again? The underlying reality and all of these terms. But, it was when Dr. Joe actually really came up with thousands and 600, 700 testimonials further of, we don't have to change matter, we change the field. I thought, oh my God, this is what we've been doing with Constellations. So, and going back to the idea that came to me, which I completely respect, is my download was, let's do a quantum experiment in manifesting an ideal job or project. And especially when we work with constellations. Why with constellations? Because a constellation makes the invisible visible. If you could see the systemic relationships between you and money, or you and success, or you and, for instance, love and prosperity consciousness, or you and your ideal job, and if we could change the code in the visible world during a constellation, what will that appear in the outer world? That was basically the download that came. So, but first we need to understand what happens in a constellation. So what you see in a constellation is people are chosen to represent elements, and the element could be money, the element could be your father, the element could even be yourself, or it could be a part of you that is entangled with trauma. For instance, if let's say there is a trauma around, let's say abandonment. Let's say your mother was abandoned, but your mother did not abandon you. You might still feel fear of abandonment or have this anxiety around relationships because your mother or your grandmother was abandoned. So what happens in the constellation? You choose people or puppets or pieces of paper, and then you start feeling or tuning into the consciousness of all these different elements, and they start to speak. And what is very beautiful, and those of you who have been in constellations know this, is that the people that are attending a family constellation workshop, they don't need to know anything about your family. They, through invitation, when they are invited into the system, in a constellation, they will just have access to the consciousness of that specific element. So for instance, if you bring in your money will start to speak to you, and it will be your money. Or if you bring in the consciousness of your father or your brother that you haven't spoken to in 5 years, the person representing your brother or your father will know what is going on. And they're not making it up. This is not theatrical, psychodynamic role play. This is really people tuning into the field. So what we then see is how in our life we are impacted by hidden dynamic elements and information, and how sometimes we are even entangled with people that seem to be separate people. So how does this work? So for me, I started after doing a lot of the healing constellations, because I'm obsessed about manifestation, right? And that is really what lights me up, manifesting. And those of you in my little groups, you see me sharing a lot of stuff. Literally, I do take in that information. I share it after I consume it myself, because I cannot get enough about rewriting the code of the underlying reality. My obsession is with the nature of reality. But if a constellation can show us the underlying code, then my question is, how can we rewrite the code in a way that is honoring to the system and honoring of the evolution of the system, when more love can come in? So when we do a constellation, you can ask many questions. You can ask questions about, why am I not happy in relationship? Why do I always attract certain types of relationships? Why do I have a ceiling for money? Why do I always, feel burnt out about success? But it could also be about health. So literally, all these things can be brought to the fore when we're doing a family constellations. So as we know, energy goes beyond time and space. So sometimes, for instance, your money story or your love story might have to do with an aunt 2 generations ago, or it could have to do with somebody that you've never met. You never heard of them. They were completely excluded. The family doesn't want to talk about them. So these things show that despite the lack of logical knowledge, the field always remembers, and the field has an imprint. So what does it do? So entanglement leads to transgenerational, literally, programs repeating. So for instance, if you have, I had a lot of problems in relationships over and over and over again, despite all the thousands of dollars and pounds that I spent in training with everybody under the sun. And that's what's really about me being impacted by the underlying field. So this is why I chose this picture. You can see, if I was an individual, I wasn't aware that the programs of love or happiness in relationship were almost like were almost like a resonant field underlying my being. And I could only attract men into my life that were a match to that, but I didn't know it. So this is why I have this circle, this resonant circle, like a vibrating energy consciousness in this picture, because this is how you can picture how these things can operate. So going back to my healing, so I feel that there is a difference between healing constellations and creation constellations, because I have been more focused on creation constellations. And what I did then is, because I was doing so many workshops in London where we were doing mainly the stuff around ancestors, family, we brought in the you know, the mother, the father, the grandfather, the brothers and everything. I was like, okay, but I don't want to be resolving family issues all the time. Other people can do that. How can we look into the future? And what I realized was that future potentials can also be constellated. And that was a download. This was even before I knew about Dr. Joe. I had a download, future self. So, and I noticed that as soon as we put in the future self, even as a piece of paper, people started downloading the future self knowledge and confidence and lack of resentment and all of that. So what I started doing was, I then started helping my friends connecting with future potentials of their dream jobs or dream projects. And mostly how I saw it was, they were basically in the code of, the job will be frustrating. Oh my God, this client will be the client from hell. And I would just say, okay, we're not focusing on that potential. Let's really put in the constellation what you do want. So so by doing that, we were clearing the stuckness that they felt. We were putting the future self in there, and we were clearing all the negative emotions by having them embody and focus on the joy, the satisfaction, etc. By being in that future that is happening now. So what I did sometimes is, I was helping them connect in a constellation with a future boss or a future client, or clients in plural. So I have a lot of these types of experiments that I did with my friends, and I want to devote another separate video on that, because I want to do it step by step. But right now, I just want to give you a little bit of the headlines of what constellations can do. So imagine that you are just one little circle here, and then you think, oh, I'm fixing this little circle here or this little circle here. In constellation work, we would look at all the other circles of energy that is impacting you. So you're a drop in the ocean of consciousness. And we're not working on the drop, we're working on the ocean of consciousness. So that is how I would say we're working on the root cause of certain issues that might show up in your life. And so by doing that, you know, so what I was doing, for instance, is I would give people templates, as I said in the last week. I would give them a template of, what does your perfect job look like? How does it feel like? And allowing people to really connect with the future potential. So outside of the constellation, I would even give them homework. Like, I want you to completely visualize and feel the reality of your future project, the future colleagues, the future clients, the future, you know, the future successes. And so we, in that way, by the individual doing their work outside of the constellation, they were, after connecting with the quantum potential and constellation, they were literally just continuing the creation, because it never stops. Yeah. So, and so they were clearing then all this fear and doubt about relationship or money or whatever, and they believe in lack. When things show up in a system, so for instance, in your own life, we call them loyalties in a constellation. Yeah. And the loyalties are not rational. So for instance, you could be loyal to a father that you hate. Yeah. In my case, for instance, in my moral judgment, I am better than my father. I know what to do. He doesn't know what to do. He is, like, you know, just not accepted by me. And literally in constellations, I was shown how loyal I was to him. And so what I want to say is that you think you know something, but in a constellation, it could be shown that the person that you are most rejecting could be the closest to you. You're the most loyal to a person that you're rejecting. So these are the things that show up in a constellation that don't really make sense if you haven't experienced them. But once you experience them, there is such a freeing of healing energy. There's so much of the resentment, rejection, resistance that gets freed up, and it can return back to love. That's, I think, really what most of you will feel when you talk about your experience with constellations. So, of course, why would we do constellations? We do it because we are impacting the field. It creates a ripple effect in our own life and in the life of our parents, generations before us, but also generations ahead of us. And so it's really about, when we work with constellations, as we do when we are meditating, we are, during a constellation, we see the movements in the field. We see the field reconstructing itself, all the different individuals or the elements that were excluded or that weren't utilized, they are being given a new place. So that is what you can see when you participate in a constellation. And it is a very moving process. It affects everybody. Everybody that is, in a constellation will actually feel it. And we're talking about soul movements. And sometimes a soul isn't ready for a specific movement, but it can literally happen, in the next constellation, or maybe a month later, or maybe in a different process. So maybe a meditation. So what happens in the constellation, what is very healing, is that more love and compassion can show up. As Ceylan said, she was very judgmental about certain mothers. And boom, the field wants you to have this beautiful opportunity to heal the judgment. And so when you are a representative in constellations, what I've seen a lot is that things that I'm very rigid about, I will be chosen exactly for the right role so that I can become more loving, so that I can become more, compassionate about why certain people do certain things. And through that, the field that you live in has more love flowing. And when more love flows, well, we know what happens. So, so if you look at what can a constellation do for myself, you can literally also set up a constellation for you and a goal. It could be, I want to write a book, or I want to set up my new company. And so really what you can also set up constellation without involving your parents, can just be about you. And it will reveal to you what your book wants to say to you, or your business, or your clients. Constellations can, if it's individual, can also show you what you don't see, what you're ignoring, what you literally wants to be known, and you're rejecting it, or you're walking away from it. So of course, it can show us all the identities that we hang on to that are not accurate. So for instance, if you define yourself as sick, maybe the constellation shows you where you can't see yourself as whole already. I do believe that we can experiment with constellation experiments. And this is what I do a lot, all the time. Because I am curious and I'm playful, and I trust the downloads coming to me. And what I've seen over and over again is that although all of us do our work, there's still so much more that we can own and that we can integrate. So you think you're a pussycat, but you're a beautiful, wild king of the, jungle, for instance. Yeah. So it's constellations can be very, very graceful and be very uplifting. Constellations can also show you that you don't really believe in something, that you are confirming 3D reality as fixed, whereas your dream wants to come through you. It wants to bless you. So, literally, I think constellation can be a mirror of the superpowers that we don't want to own, or that we are not living as an embodiment because maybe we don't feel ready, we don't feel good enough. Or it might even be that we're loyal to the lack of success in our families. So, or the countries that we live in. So yeah, that is what I wanted to share. So I hope that that is a big picture overview of what constellations can do. I don't know, did I miss out something, Celine?
Well, as Indrani wrote there, you did really, really amazing explaining it, because it's not always easy. No, I mean, I'm not really. I just want to say that it's very fast and effective, at least in my experience. And I love finding out the hidden things, because there's always something hidden. And that's most of the time when you find it, even just the fact of finding it without even doing any healing work around it is healing. And then even, you know, we call the person doing the constellation is called the facilitator. There's representatives, and then there's observers, you know, who are not picked for a certain, you know, representing certain things. And in my experience, when I ask people, each time I do a group thing, I always hear from everyone that something in everyone has changed and shifted. So it's important to know that you're there, that they, for a reason, like Angelique, you always say that, you know, you're here for a reason and you're experiencing this for a reason. Yes. And what you judge, you attract to heal. To, you know, for me, it was, as I explained earlier, it was a huge shift from a big judgment to complete unconditional love and acceptance. And I changed. Something in me has changed that day. And that happens. And I was just, I became a representative, I guess, naturally, you know. So it happens to everyone, you know, even the observers.
I wanted to share, because I have so much experience of constellations healing very difficult, almost dysfunctional relationship dynamic. And I know there's a lot of beautiful women and men out there that haven't cracked that code. Well, I've done a lot of work. I can share all the ins and outs. Some of you are super happily married for many years, so you might be thinking, oh, you know, so I actually had to heal it for myself. So I can tell you that the first constellation that I did was in Holland. And Holland doesn't have a lot of Chinese people. It doesn't, it's a very small minority, and definitely doesn't have a lot of Chinese people from South America. It's big, like that's even more tiny. So in my first constellation, I chose a woman to be me. And what turned out to happen was that at the end of my constellation, which was the first ever I did for my family, which was very scary. So I know that Fabienne said that she's very, you know, resistant. I was like that resistant. I was like, oh, I don't know, it's too scary. But when I went, it was crazy, the synchronicities that happened just that one day. The woman that I chose was a typical Dutch girl, my typical Dutch girl, mother, very young. She came to me and she said, I knew you were going to choose me. And I was like, no, what? And she said, I am divorced with a Chinese South American man. We have a baby. And when you chose me, I, for the first time, could understand my ex-husband. So can you imagine the wisdom of the knowing field to make me not ready until she was ready? And then she could heal her lack of compassion towards her ex-husband. Yeah, so that alone gave me goosebumps. Another thing about, does a constellation heal something in the 3D world? Those of you who are Asian people, Chinese people, there's a lot of Chinese comedians now that actually have this this fun thing going on about emotional damage, of how tiger moms or tiger fathers, how they are negatively impacting the self-esteem of Chinese kids. And I watch them and I'm laughing, yeah, because I'm now ready to laugh about it. But when you're young, you're emotionally traumatized by it. But now I'm at a stage where I can laugh about it. But Chinese parents never give you encouragement. They never email you. They never call you. They never tell you, I love you. Yeah, that doesn't happen. But after I did my constellation, me and my dad have a very estranged relationship. So it's literally like a front of cold energy between me and him, because just as you know, I was carrying the anger of my mother. I was carrying all the anger that she did not feel. I felt it for my mother. So when I did the constellation, I chose this woman to be me, and I could see what I was doing in relationships, which was I wanted to be away from my parents. So I didn't want to face it, but what I saw happen to my parents was that they had a Cold War. There was like a Cold War happening between them. So the facilitator did several things. I can't even remember what happened. Like literally, I don't remember what happened. I just remember that the man that was representing my father came to me and he said, "Your father is so proud of you." And I just said, whatever, I don't care about my dad. But what happened after that constellation was mind-blowing, which is something that I really, really feel is the demonstration of how we're so interconnected. My dad, out of nowhere, started emailing me very frequently, saying how much he loved me and missed me. And so something happened something unraveled for my father. And of course, I shared this with my friends, and they said, "Why don't you email him back?" And I said, "I can't." And so it took me many years to actually resolve this loyalty to my mom. So it wasn't instant, but I have to say that despite all the family of constellation facilitators trying to help me, I was very stubborn. I just wasn't ready. So I remember that at one point I was in a big group workshop, and I had the constellation facilitator put in my mom and dad and the mistress of my dad. Can you imagine how I was with the mistress of my dad? I rejected it. So the thing is, right now, because I went through it, I know it's not easy. It's not like, yeah, just love the mistress of your dad. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. So but yes, I had other modalities to work with the shadow. Yeah, because I could also see, because I was training, I was 10 years in Jungian analytical psychology. I was training to be a facilitator, but I decided not to go forward because it's all about talking and dream analysis, etc. But in the Jungian world, they would have said my dad was so the mistress of my dad was my mom's shadow. And I have actually done a lot of constellation workshops with shadow, animus, anima. So whatever parents I chose as a soul, they informed my work, and it comes through in my work when we work on relationship dynamics. But yeah, so those are two I think very big things that I can say about what happened to me. Right now, what I can say is that the soul has its own time to accept things and to want to heal things. Like my resistance to accepting that my dad was the way he was, more happier with another woman, I couldn't be happy for him. Even if he was completely incompatible with my mom, I couldn't be happy for him. Right now, of course, I understand it. Right now, I'm like, I don't know, like 15 years later, I can accept it, but then I wasn't ready. So if you are in a constellation and you're trying to push things, maybe you will see that sometimes you're not willing, and it's perfectly okay. Everything is happening in divine timing. So that's what I wanted to say. So yeah, maybe we can open up the floor to maybe people that want to ask questions. I mean, there's many types of constellations. You can do it with, it's very powerful when you do it in your own language. So if, let's say, you're German and you want to do the synthesis in German, we experimented with that in certain workshops. It's very, very powerful. If you can do it in, but sometimes you might not have that opportunity. And if you feel, this person is the right person to work with, just, do it. What I would recommend, though, is not just do constellation in itself, just really use the constellation as a tool to see things that you need to work with, and then take it into your other practice, which could be meditation, which could be Abraham Hicks, which could be EFT or theta healing or whatever, to release even more. Yeah, I hope I gave By the way, I'm happily married now and everything. So even I can heal this really difficult, very, very painful relationship dynamic. So I'm very hopeful for all the singles out there. So yeah, I don't want to bring people down here. Yeah.
Angelique, I just wanted to add something else. Yes, Constellations is a really great tool to see the dysfunction and to just notice it, but also to heal it, so you can heal it without actually doing extra work. You can, there's different ways of healing things in Constellation, but you can leave, you can end the constellation at a place where you already have healed it, in the field, and then it manifests slowly in life. And like what you said, Angelique, was a really good example of, your dad suddenly reaching out to you. That happens very, very often. That's part of the...
Without me wanting it, I didn't feel comfortable with it at all. So to me, it was completely like, oh my gosh, something shifted, because it's so uncommon for a Chinese man to do this.
But you were ready for it. So
on a mental level, I wasn't, because I never responded.
No, but
So
I mean,
interesting.
energetically,
Yeah.
you must have been, so that he actually did that, It's the continuation of the healing process. Sometimes it takes 6 months after the constellation for things to unfold, so.
Yeah, yeah. So let's see what are other people just have questions. This is like, this is about us working with the field. This is about us, understanding how we can access the field, right? The field of consciousness, the field that we live in, how we can see the field. We're not separate, we're connected to something bigger. There are no stupid questions. Claudine, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to share, because for me, I felt that like really experiencing the field, but not from within, because there were the other persons that were like playing the field for me, and sending me back the what was happening for me, in fact. So that's what I can share, like being there with being the issue holder was like having a mirror with all I was receiving about my relationship with money, prosperity, and so I really felt that as a way of connecting to the field in a more concrete or practical way of connecting with the field. That's and receiving answers. So it was clear.
Yes, that was a money constellation where we constellated love and prosperity consciousness as an element, the money of Claudine, and something that needed to be acknowledged. And for some reason, Claudine's ancestors suddenly popped up as well, because there was a person that suddenly came into the room that was another constellation person in our group. And she was a witness, because I wanted to finalize the process because we didn't have a lot of time. And she said she was feeling the ancestor. So whatever we were doing, she completely felt every healing sentence, she could follow it, and things were shifting. So we cannot ignore the divine synchronicities that happen when we do constellations. So yeah, thank you, Gabriella. Yeah, so if Ceylan and I were to do a taster workshop, what topic should we look at? Would it be something about creation, or something about just getting to know the field, or we can go in many directions, basically, or something. Rohini, yes, I can see your hand.
I just wanted to share something. I already feel like why I'm here today, and what impact this has on me, because I also, like said, and watched the series Another Self, and I saw it during the time when I was going through my own thing, and my husband said, "Oh, maybe you don't want to see this because it's about cancer," and I was avoiding watching anything which has like makes you sad, or but somehow I wanted to see it, and I saw that, and it made me very curious because of certain reasons, and I started looking up for what that was, the kind of healing modality that was there, because I had no clue about it, frankly. And then I also found something in Brussels, and I stored all that research somewhere that I'm going to do this later. And something in me, because a lot of things have happened at the ancestral level in my family, which has created a lot of fear on the people, in the generations below at much great grandfather level. And they're so scary that, anytime something bad happened, it would always be associated with, maybe we are suffering because of that incident. And then there would always be questions about why one family is suffering more than the other. And, like we've always lived in that kind of confusion and kind of, taking it back there. And at that moment, around that moment, all this conversation had come again a year or so back. And I had made peace with the fact that, I create my own reality, and I'm not going to be disturbed by all these events. And slowly we all, at our role, everybody who's a bit spiritual and things like that in my family, they came out with their own understanding, and we wanted to put this matter at rest. And we just let it go together. We sat down, people joined from all over on Zoom, the entire family, and we put it at rest. But of course, there's something going on still. It comes up every now and then. It just doesn't rest. So for the same reason, when I did all this research, but I just put it away. So I told you that I'd seen a video during that time about it, and then completely forgot about it, like completely. And then when you said this, I started looking back today, and I realized, oh my God, that's why I had looked up for all of this. And now after hearing you, I understand better what it is all about. And,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Selena, maybe we could have a conversation. And Yolanda is also in training, I believe, for constellation work. It's like this belief that we create our reality. I would love to say that we do, but there are many levels that are impacting our creation, and many levels where we are loyal to our families and our ancestors, so that even what we think we want to create in all freedom with divinity and blah, 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 we are still attracting certain things into our life so that it can heal. So for instance, I truly believe that these men who came into my life to break my heart, they were helping me to heal, and I can completely see it as the soul level contract. Like if Angelique was going to run away and only manifest money and not look at her abundance, at one point she's going to meet the man that will break her so much that she will look at her own healing journey, because she can heal the family. So if you are the one that feels called to do the work and nobody else is doing the work, you are the one that can solve it. That's really what I believe now. Because me living this beautiful marriage, like I know Ceylan was there, Indrani was there, and Anna Valesi was there. I was such a different person compared to who I am now, and I could not have, even in my future self, I would not have been able to embody the feelings of feeling so safe and also even being okay if he leaves me, having so much self-love that it's not dependent on a man. And seeing my parents dysfunction and thinking, wow, they have so little, they're actually doing really well. So literally feeling the love for my parents. And so I would say whatever comes on your plate was divinely chosen in a way. I don't know. You divinely chose those problems to heal. because you can. With whatever modality, constellations is just a smack in your face, this is it, so that you can take it further. That's what I would say. And yes, sometimes in a constellation, magical things can unfold as well. Yeah, especially I think the more consciousness people bring to a constellation, the more things can shift. I do believe that as well.
I just want to add that my clue now is, from my level of what I know, is when there is a, when there's a disturbance in the flow, and there's like a wall here, wall here, wall here, wall here, and no matter which option you try to do, that's when I stop. I completely stop, and then I say, okay, let me just look at this from systemic view. And once I do that, it's just the fact of saying that even starts unfolding things. So that's usually my clue of like when I should do a constellation and on what. Yes, Angela, you want to say something?
And Fabienne as well.
Yeah, I think as well, you've probably just answered it actually there, because I missed to start, so I do apologise, I was late. So I know we're talking about kind of family constellations, and you spoke about money one as well, which is quite good. If you had something that you were struggling with, as you say, something that you were stuck with, mine always seems to be a house, like moving house, and it's a repeated pattern. So I remember when I had my kids really young, and then I was always waiting for the house, and I got it, and then I got it, but it wasn't quite right, and I wanted another one, so I got another one, and then I got a divorce. So I left the house, and the house was never that important. And now I'm still 11 years down the line, desperately for those 11 years not to be where I am. So and I wonder if that's something that can be worked on as well, because obviously there's some pattern there.
Yes.
Funny enough, just before this specific presentation, I was helping some friends of mine who seemed to be attracting the wrong house for whatever reason. And I asked help of a few people online, and my husband and his beautiful daughter. I said, can you please be there as well? Because I do think that this is maybe not about the house. And I just put in the home on the, and then I wrote the perfect home. The perfect home was actually constellated. And then it emerged that it was more about home, your own home, the own connection with your own place where you're always at home with yourself. And so, I mean, I'm not saying that this could be your issue, but so my download was immediately home is entangled with the parental home, to own a home with yourself, the home with your husband or ex-husband or with children, or, more like a physical place. So the person that was representing perfect home informed us what he believed he was, and he said it's my home with myself. So when you ask these, and then there was a huge integration piece where she rejected, of course, her own home. She was rejecting the parents. So this is things, and I didn't try and push it because it took me years to accept my parents and to even feel their support. But then I just started with working with what she could accept, which was the soul movement that she was ready for, which was to integrate, her own parts of herself that made her feel more at home. But in every constellation could be different, so we literally cannot generalize. Yeah. So yeah, I hope that answers the questions. So it could just be symbolism for something.
Yeah.
And maybe Ceylan has an intuitive insight.
Yeah, well, I agree that it needs to be looked at in a case-specific situation. But what comes to me is also, maybe if your ancestors or, your ancestry line comes from what do you call people who keep moving, from
Nomadic.
like nomadic
migrants.
lifestyle. Sometimes that because it's funny, we move a lot too, but I did some work around it. I was very curious to see why, and again, being both my husband and I are originally from Turkey, And just going back to the to our ancestry line and Turkey, the land itself, you know, there was a lot of nomads, like, you know, people just moved, you know, that was what they did back then. So it was very interesting to see, because we were also very like home people. We love home, you know, idea, but we kept moving. And now, you know, I guess after seeing that, I'm like, oh, you know, we're kind of, for the first time in many years, we don't have a desire to move. And we've been here for 2 years where we are, which is a really big surprise, you know? So yeah, it's it could be many things, but it's always interesting to see. Sometimes it's so unrelated to you personally, but you're carrying that as a loyalty or as different reasons. And you just look into it and you resolve it. And then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then it resolves itself.
Yeah, I'd like to give it back to whoever it is.
Yeah, exactly. It helps.
Yeah.
By giving it back, you're healing it for them. You know, you have your own part to heal, and you know, and when you heal it, something will happen for them as well. Thank you, Andrani.
And future, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you.
So I know Fabienne have a question. I would just like to say that, you know, I think all of us are dreading facing family. And what I want to say is, when I was doing the constellation work, I was in another energy healing training, and the teachers advised us to be representatives first. So don't throw yourself in and say, oh, I need to do my own constellation. Just get familiar with it. Just be a representative in somebody else's constellation, so that at the time when it's right, you don't feel as much fear, because you can also feel the healing that happens. You can feel the release that happens. So whatever fear you have around looking at my family or whatever, or myself, it will be more, you know, more easy to face. You have more strength and more of an experience of it. You still have a question, Fabienne?
Yes, I think, thank you very much, Angelique. I really loved your presentation and, you know, experience sharing. I think that's very inspiring, and the same to Selene. Thank you very much. Yeah, I had a question, because at a certain point you said something along the line that, you know, maybe there's a calling for you to heal, you know, for your family. I don't remember how exactly you formulated it, but that made me, you know, react, because this is exactly, I mean, I also mentioned it before, I have some resistance to start such work. However, I also have a calling to do it. It's just that I think there's a part of me, because there are repetitive pattern now over 4 generations for the woman in my family on my grandmother side. And you know, and I feel that it could stop with me, you know, supporting also future generations. And there's a part of me who is not very happy with that. It's a bit, maybe it's a bit, you know, egoistic, but it's like, why me? You know, why do I have to heal 4 generations? You know, of, you know, this is in the relationship area. So yeah, I was just kind of reflecting on it. At the same time, I have some resistance, because I'm thinking, you know, I have already enough to do with whatever my life is. But then I have also to say that when it comes to manifestation, I've used many techniques very successfully in many, many different areas.
Super, you're a super manifester.
But I feel stuck in this particular area, and I've really tried.
Then it's definitely the ancestors. If you're super successful and there's one area where you're stuck, I swear to God, it's your ancestors, it's your field. It's not you, it's them. But you are the entry point.
But Fabienne, you know, that's exactly why I resisted it so much, because for me, like the family line and everything, that's heavy, and I don't want to go there. I just didn't want it. And still to this day, when I do constellations on myself, you know, like when I ask people to do it, it's always very scary. I always want to but it's also when I do any kind of energy work, I always want to cancel it the day of the of my you know, my session. I always try, like my mind is like so creative. Okay, I can make up this excuse and I can say this, or maybe I can do it tomorrow instead. And then that's when I know that there's something deep to heal. And it's actually pretty easy. It's just like sitting down and doing it. And, you know, each time I do it, I always, I'm glad I do. And now I love that because I work on myself on a very regular basis. So each time, without an exception, I have this like, I want to cancel it. And then I'm like, yes, I'm so happy I want to cancel it. That means I'm going to heal something big. I mean, that's actually personally, to me, that's when I know I'm going to heal something big. So I think that is your fear. Like, what am I going to see?
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing. I think that's very inspiring for me.
What I want to say though is that with all your power, and I know how powerful you are. I mean, you're one of the people that inspire me with things that you do and how you turn around difficult situations. Why would you believe that you cannot turn this around, even if it's for yourself? Forget about healing 4 generations or whatever. Just think about yourself. Be infinite selfish, as Abraham Hicks would say. Be selfish for yourself. Why would you keep up? Why would you repeat this old outdated pattern? You know so much. So why would you even allow this entanglement to continue one day further? I mean, this beautiful man or whatever, this soulmate partner is waiting for you, but you're closing the door. That's maybe how I would say it, or he's waiting till you're ready. I don't know. But I mean, there's so many ways that we can trick ourselves to not be ready. But it could be as easy as you do a constellation and boom, the doors go wide open. Like, we did it with Claudine. We did it with Claudine, right? In a group. And she didn't even understand that we were going to do a money constellation. She just accepted. And literally so much healing, so much blessing happened for the ancestors. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but she was ready for it. And she had support. I would imagine that so much support will show up when you have to do it. And you will choose, the right time. But really, don't project onto that it might be difficult or whatever. It could just be like an hour's work. And then so many things could unfold for you. And shifts could even happen in your outer world, like it happened for me.
Yeah, I think that's giving me a lot of hope. Thanks you so much for saying that. And I think one of the thing as well on the reluctance comes, because all those trauma that happen, there's a lot of family taboo around, all this drama. So I guess this is also part of, I'm carrying this with me as well. But yes, I think definitely I want to give it a try. So that's why I feel all the time attracted when I see constellation now, and I'm just this is very encouraging for me. So thanks a lot, for this session. Really, really appreciate it.
I know Yolanda is here. You're also training, right, to be in Constellations work. I mean, can you maybe share a little bit about what you would say to people that feel fear, as we all do? Or maybe you want to share something else. Oh, we cannot hear you. Something about, I see.
Maybe use a headset. Could have.
Yeah, it could be.
Remove the headset and use the laptop on. No, still not.
No. Maybe you can log in or log out and look at your microphone settings. Microphone could be your speaker that isn't on the right thing. Could be speaker. If I look at speaker, I see 3 things. Maybe take another one. Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I did a basic family constellation training, but that was a few years ago. And last year I did the systemic coaching with different types of paper, that kind of things. And yeah, I think you said a lot about the constellation thing, and every time I have the same as Celine had. When you are doing a constellation, I also feel the fear for what is going to show up. But it's every time a surprise you get from a way you don't know, where it comes from. And one experience I was very surprised by was, I don't know the English word of it, Angelique.
Yeah. The sorry?
Genogram.
Genogram. You mean the family tree?
Yes, you are going to write out sometimes before you starting with a constellation. And I was a little bit shocked because I saw, and but I was aware of it, that there is an uncle of mine who is abandoned in the family by my mother, but he's still alive and he's just living around in the city. But I got a feeling when I saw that, because I know that's not good for the system if someone is abandoned. I got a feeling that I want to come in contact with him. But also, when I was looking at it and working on that in the training, my brother, which I never speak about, had the same feeling. He got attracted to my uncle. Then, weeks later, he met my uncle at the street, and they wanted to make an appointment, to talk, because we never speak to him for, I think, 10 years, maybe more. But at the day they want to do the appointment, it became too scary for my uncle to do it, because a lot of things come up. So we wait now till there is the right moment for him to do it. But I'm doing another modality where we're also looking at family things, and it's Psyche, and to do stress balances with family members. And I did one with him. So I will see what comes up, but I believe that the field is working now, that he will show up very soon. Are you still there?
Yes, but I think
Angelique.
Angelique is
Yes.
Angelique images.
Yeah.
She's frozen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Do you practice that professionally or?
No.
No, okay.
It's just curious now, all the modalities there are with energy work and changing the field. Yes. And also being a representative. I don't.
Representative.
It's also unbelievable what happens. I've been in a lot of in constellations, for different people, and it's so. You cannot imagine. You have to experience it how it is, because I never had words of it, what happened in the field, and with what kind of information you get. Well, you don't know anything about someone. I was one time a representative for someone's father, and I had a feeling I had to stand like this, paralyzed on one side of his body, but I didn't know that. But my whole body was going like this. So I think, how is this possible? That I get this information and I don't know it.
Well, it proves to us that there is an invisible field of connection, that we are one, and that we, we're holographically connected to each other. There is a holographic intelligence or reality to, and I think family constellations can maybe empower us by knowing that we can be that psychic. And that with the higher knowledge that all of us are learning, that we can, by showing up in a different way, we can literally also probably heal parts of our parts of our system and the system that we are working with. So Yeah, I know. Julie, would you like to say more, or maybe somebody else has a question? Yes.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Julie's about
No,
to
no,
say.
go for it. Go for it. No, no, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, Jazz,
Go
you
ahead.
can, yeah, go ahead, Jazz.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, so after this last week when you were starting sharing this, but the presentation was not working, so we were just talking. I mean, Selene told me, you know, it's so fast and easy for you because you already know how to manifest. It's just there blockage that needs to be like released and all that. So ever since then, I'm in total, you know, within me, it's a lot of chaos and commotion. And when you did this presentation, I was like, there were so many signs, I'm not going into that, right? That, oh my God, this is where I'm supposed to be. It's the best place and all that. And I experienced Constellation as a representative many times, but I was never the one that Constellation was done for. So I was always on the other side. And to me, I have only one question: when? When and how? I'm like ready, like, yes. That's all.
So we want to do a taster workshop, and this is just like, because I said to Selene, she's studying it, and actually, and all of you know, right? Once you start doing the work, there are certain things that attract you, certain things that don't attract you. So I want to do the creation part. So I'm happy to do a taster workshop around maybe money or a business goal, or like something like a relationship, allowing that in. And Selene can maybe share about what you would love to do in terms of a constellation workshop. It could also be anything. I don't know. Do you have any boundaries, or what you enjoy more as a taster workshop? Because we also have to think about time limitations and how many people can show up, etc.
Well, there's a reason. There's probably, I know it, and maybe there's other reasons that I don't know, but I since the beginning, because I do have psychology background, I used to be a child psychologist, and I say used to because that's not me anymore. But I keep attracting usually physical and emotional imbalances. I don't like to call disease or anything like that, but so I keep working with that. Honestly, to this day, I have never attracted, somebody come to me and say, I want to work on my money issue. Honestly, I don't know why, because, I didn't generate, I just was just putting myself out there as a general thing. But I always trust what comes to me as well. So I have been working for years at this point with just emotional and physical trauma and, things like that. That are more on the survival side of it. And as Angelique said, she's more interested in the creation part of it. So you can't get to creation without, fixing the survival part, of course. So I guess, it's complementary in that sense, because, that's really what I've been attracting and really what I've been working on. Yeah.
So in divine time, Selene and I will announce the dates, because she and I are super busy, and and if you are not chosen, because the way I work is the field chooses, you might get your answer being a representative, right? And then you're more ready to face the dynamic in your family. So I would say you've set the intention already, and things will unfold. So it's not like it will unfold only when you're the issue holder. It's already unfolding. And I see myself now, and this is what I also want to teach when I'm working with the creation constellations, is you are the cooperative component of all your future clients. You are the cooperative component of your future, husbands, boyfriends, So really see yourself as, because you're showing up in a certain way, or you have to heal a certain thing, you're helping others that are needing you to heal. So there's always this beautiful ripple effect. And I would focus, instead of as a tip, maybe instead of focusing on the fear around it, focus on the blessings that will come in. Focus on the blessings that will come in. And in one of the last constellation workshops, training workshops that I was in, you know, somebody I really respect, and when he speaks, you just hear it in his voice, all the wisdom. He just said, you are the evolution of your ancestors. Your healing is what they want for them. Because when you heal, they heal, and we don't see it as we're doing it for them. This is the divine timing for you to heal this specific piece, and it's not separate from them. So in divine time, I will feel inspired to choose the timings, because we have people in the Americas, we have people in Europe. But for me, it can be pretty quick, because I don't have children. I can be super selfish, and I am. Like literally, I don't have to devote my weekends to people like children that want to play with me or something. I can just say, I'm going to work all day for 2 days. So I can literally do it this weekend, but I need to know what I'm going to do. So let's see what happens, and let's see who shows up. So yeah, so, but Jazz, you know, I think, you know, as you said, you help people with so many amazing things. I'm sure something really, it could even be fun. Constellations can also be fun. Yeah. And yeah, and if there's tears, they can be releasing tears, very healing tears as well. Yeah.
Yes, to me, it's like anything that happens is actually what needs to be you know, it needs to happen. There's no right or wrong, right? Whatever it is. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Anna, you've done a lot of constellations work. Can you share?
Yeah, I guess it's been interesting. I always find it revealing, because even if you are not an issue holder, normally kind of mirrors in what stage you are. So sometimes if you're in a very high vibration place, you might get to play an element that is like almost like, you know, love or you know, these infinite possibilities or things like that. And if you're a bit stuck, then as well, kind of you get to play an element that might be feeling that way, even though the element might be neutral on its own. So I always find that when I have participated in constellations, even if I'm not the issue holder, I've seen that most people's intentions have been answered in that specific constellation, even though you know, even though it seems like obviously we don't communicate with each other, it seems like we get answers most of the time, and I think that's very, and it varies, because obviously the physical sensations, you know, is not something that you can control. So sometimes you might be feeling really good, other times really sleepy, other times you're in pain, or and basically you just have to trust that is, and it makes sense to the person. You know, you might think this is quite ridiculous, but to the issue holder might be like, oh yeah, actually that is how, I don't know, I feel the specific situation. So I think they are definitely something very interesting, and definitely something that makes the invisible visible, I would say. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So it's late for you guys in Europe. Some of you are all going to be in the healing as well. I want to thank you on behalf of me and Siglen, and we will find a time for a taster workshop. And I also still have to explain the quantum experiment. I was just basically working on a PowerPoint and busy doing money constellations, things like that. But I will be able to shoot a little video about how that could work and how you can participate. And yeah, and thank you so much. And yeah, I feel sometimes the fear is just like could also be excitement. The excitement of the healing. I can only say, when you do the constellation in the right way, always the end of the constellation is always more cohesion and more love flowing. So why would we be fearful of more love flowing? Bizarre, right? Why would I be fearful of my dad emailing me that he loves me just because he's Chinese and I don't expect him to do it? Like, oh my God. You know, no. This is not what Chinese dads do. They email their daughter and say, I love you. So yeah. Okay. Lots of love, everybody.
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye. Bye.